Global economy. The world economy or global economy is the economy of all humans of the world. Referring to the global economic system, which includes all economic activities which are conducted both within and between nations, including production, consumption, economic management, work in general, exchange of financial values and trade of goods and services.
The global economy is the world economy or the worldwide economy. It is all the economies of the world, the economy of every country, which we consider together as one giant economic system. It includes everything we buy, sell, and own on this planet. The global economy is one giant entity. The term global economy has two meanings. One, the economy of the whole planet, i.e. global GDP. And two, the way the world is today, with countries' economies so intertwined and interdependent that they all seem like parts of one whole. We call that whole the global economy. We currently live in a global economy. When people say we live in a global economy, they are talking about the interdependence of nations. Some people use the term to refer to, for example, banking and finance, which today has no national boundaries. If a giant bank in one country collapses, banks in other countries also suffer. In fact, whole economies might suffer. When we talk about the global economy in this context, we are referring to globalization. In today's global economy, more and more businesses are selling beyond their borders. The need for effective global marketing strategies has increased significantly. Global marketing refers to planning, producing or creating, placing, and promoting a company's products or services in the global market. Since the advent of the Internet, the global economy has become relevant for many more businesses than before. In the past, only large corporations could call themselves multinationals. Today, even small online businesses can trade with other companies and individuals from anywhere in the world. The Internet has changed many of the basic features of the global economy.
The UN tried to address the different problems in the world. Their efforts were guided by 8 Millennium Development Goals which they created in the 1990s.
So 8 Millennial Development Goals. So first is the eradications of extreme poverty and hunger. So when we say eradications, it means there will be no more or wala na jud, like there's no more extreme poverty and hunger. Second, achieving universal primary education. So when we say universal, it is for everyone throughout the world. So when we say primary education, this is for us in the Philippines in elementary level. Maybe in another country, it might be education system, but this is for United Nations achieving universal primary education for all. Dapat naa jud tanan ang maka-access sa education. Third, promoting gender equality and women empowerment. So in another word, there is more equal treatment for between men and women. This comes in terms of work, salary, and etc. Empowering women have the similar equal right for men. So in other part of the country, some do not have equal treatment. Some cannot vote, cannot drive, some cannot have even educations. Naadyoy sa laing lugar naay kanang dili gid siya equal ang like dili patas ang pagtan-aw like sa unang kuan di ba na may sa laing lugar kay dili sila ka vote kanang dili sila ka bawal sila mo drive and mao to siya. Then mao pud ni siya ang kanang goal sa United Nations to eliminate inequality treatment. So reducing child mortality. So kanang nakaibaw naman tani nga mao gini siya ang rate of children nga katong daghang nangamatay. So improving material health. So muna siya katong improving of pregnant women as well as maternity leave inana. So combating disease like HIV, AIDS and malaria. So these are the common disease in other part of the world. It is not fully controlled in some areas or gitawag nila nga outbreak or epidemic nga sakit. So this kanang magani siya ang like diri sa Pilipinas kay na naamay gid siya sa Pilipinas po kanang HIV, AIDS and kaning mga sakit. So this is mo po ni siya ang goal kanang para ma-stop ang this kind of disease. Ensuring environmental sustainability. So in other words, we're trying to make sure that the world can sustain itself upon generations. So 8, having a global partnership for development. So many companies came together, help one in other to develop or developing for economy. Or in other words, kanang we need to be united to each other.
Extreme poverty. According to UN, 2015, is a condition characterized by severe deprivation of basic human needs including food, safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, health shelter, education and information. The UN defines extreme or absolute poverty as living on less than $1.25 a day. The organization aims to eliminate extreme poverty to all people by 2030.
Extreme or absolute poverty as living on less than $1.25 a day. The organization aims to eliminate extreme poverty in 2030. Most people who have been lifted out of extreme poverty is still poor, and being poor comes with serious problems from disease to lack of waters. For example, if someone works in rural area and earns only 250 pesos a day, they fall below the poverty line, as they make less than the daily threshold set for basic needs like food, shelter, and education. So,
the UN, 2015, reported that 836 million people still live in extreme poverty, but that is down from 1.9 billion. World Bank predicted that by 2030 the number of people living in extreme poverty could drop to less than 400 million. However, climate change had to be considered since it is a threat to these improvements in global poverty. In the Philippines, a person is officially living in poverty if he makes less than 100,534 pesos a year, around 275 pesos a day. Poverty line or poverty threshold.
So what do you mean by poverty threshold? So poverty threshold is a minimum income required for a family or individual to meet the basic food and non-food requirements. So there are 5 countries who have been experienced the most extreme poverty. First is India. Second is Nigeria, which has 86 million people living in the poverty. Third is Democratic of Congo, and fourth is Ethiopia, and lastly is Bangladesh. In 2019, 736 people living in poverty. Then, pag 2022, ni-reduce siya og 24 million people. So, naanalay 712 million people nga living in the extreme poverty. Sa 736 million nga naka-experience og extreme poverty diri sa whole world is ang katungaan to, which is the 368 million, is nabilong siya sa 5 countries nga akong na-mention earlier.
So, why is extreme poverty falling? Better access to education. Humanitarian aid. The policies of international like UN economic globalization.
So there are some reasons why is extreme poverty is falling. First is better access to education. The principle and practice of providing equal opportunities for learning and development to all individuals. Like for example, here in the Philippines, ang government ni provide og free education sa mga tao nga willing mo eskwela, especially in tertiary or universities. Humanitarian aid is a materials and logistic assistance usually in the short term to people in need. Among the people in need are homeless, refugees, and victims of natural disasters and famines. The primary objective of humanitarian aid is to save lives from suffering. Like for example, pag bagyong Odette and during the COVID-19. So, ang government is nihatag sila og mga relief goods sa mga tao nga mas deserving. Next is the policies of international like UN. Means the government's rules and regulations guiding and controlling trade with foreign countries. Gi-create ni nga policy para makatabang sa country nga mo-work together for peace, security, and human rights para ma-solve ang global problems like poverty, climate change, and conflict.
So let's proceed in the next slide, which is the economic globalization and the global trade. In the next slide, there are two types of economies, which is protectionism and trade liberalization. So protectionism is protecting one's economy from foreign competitions by creating trade barriers. So there is one of example nga nag-import og kanang trade barriers, which is Canada, sa ilahang daily product. So trade barriers is what we also call tariff. So what is tariff? Tariff is a required fees of or imports and exports of services and goods. So for example, if there sa country A is namaliga siya og lapis nga tag 10 pesos, so ang lapis is naay 5 pesos nga tariff. So pag abot sa country B is 15 pesos na. So ang tariff di kay mo ni siya ang tax or tubo sa usa ka produkto. So tariff is na siya effect, which is to raise the price of the imported product, and it makes imported goods more expensive so that people are more likely to purchase lower price items produced domestically, locally, or within the country. So tariff is you have to pay extra for it. So the next one is quota. So quota is limited placed on the quantity of goods that can be imported. So it's limit of how many specific goods that can be imported into the country in a certain time period. So for example, a country might limit the amount of cans imported from other countries to 500,000 per year. So naay other examples of quota nga para makasabot mo. Okay, so in the Philippines, there is a quota system for sugar imports. The governments limit the amount of sugar that can be imported from foreign countries to support domestic sugar producers. So by limiting imports, Philippines is makatabang siya nga ma-maintain ang higher prices for domestic sugar. So para protecting sa ato ang local farmers and producers ngadto sa cheaper foreign competition.
So, hello everyone. Our topic for today is Cold War. So, Cold War is the development and deployment of wide array of weapons from conventional arms to nuclear weapons, reflecting the intense rivalry and fear between the United States and the Soviet Union. So, The Cold War was fundamentally an ideological struggle between capitalism, and represented by United States, and communism, represented by Soviet Union. So, naaday, ang United States is nasa ilahang pamaagi sa ilahang pagdagan sa ilahang basta ilahang policy. So, one is sa United States is capitalism. So, capitalism is you get to own a property and ikaw may magbuot if how you use it. Sa other side of that coin is communism. So, when you get a property, it's not only for use, only for you. Gamiton sa ni siya sa, pwede pa ni siya magamit sa imong neighbors, sa government ninyo. Mo na ilahang duha ka policies. So, both superpowers sought to expand their influence and control over various regions, particularly in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So, ang ilahang goal is ilahang ma-implement ng ilahang mga rules, ilahang pamaagi sa these countries, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So, the United States aimed to prevent the spread of communism, which is viewed as a threat to democracy and free enterprise. So, kabalo man jud ta nga, lahi ra jud ang communism sa democracy. It is the opposite of democracy ang communism. Kay wala man kay free of will sa imuhang property. So, the Soviet Union sought to expand its sphere of influence to support communist movements worldwide. This struggle manifested in various conflicts and proxy wars in regions such as Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. So, ang ilahag yung goal is para makuan gito nila. So, nag-gera gini siya in these regions, Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. So, Cold War is dili lang dyan siya more on influence sa ilahang pamaagi. It's more of a kanang military and technological competition which is it's still occurring yun ni siya today. So, the Cold War spurred an arms race, particularly in development of nuclear weapons and military technologies. Both nations invested heavily in military capabilities, leading to the establishment of significant stockpiles of nuclear weapons. So, mayroong tag-Cold War, no firearms is involved, pero mura na siya nag-prepare po siguro sa if ever na war, kay mura man sila ganang dak-anay, ganun sila sa ilahang weapons, gani pang hardlock sa. So, Cold War, wala firearms involved, or ang firearms is wala pa siya fire, or wala pa siya na-involved in the process. So, the space race, marked by events like the launch of Sputnik by the Soviet Union and Apollo moon landing by the United States, was another aspect of this technological competition. So, like I said, duha ka aspect ang ilahang competition, which is weapons, military and technological competition. So, usa di ang space race atong appeal sa Cold War. So, mura po na sila kanang nagpalabuanay sa ilang technologies gani if ever kinsay mas advanced gani nila. Which the United States won because mas naaman sila budget. Tas ang Soviet Union is niundang na siya kay wala siya budget, kulangan siya sa budget. So, the Cold War was driven by complex interplay of ideological, geopolitical, and military and economic factors. Its purpose was not to establish dominance in international affairs, but to also promote and protect distinct political and economic system. The legacy of the Cold War continues to influence global politics today, shaping contemporary international relations and conflicts. The Cold War arms race led to a massive buildup of weapons, both conventional and nuclear. On both sides, this arms race had a significant impact on the global economy and international relations, and it continues to shape the world today. So that's all. Thank you. Hello guys, so our next topic is virtual water. So virtual water is the production of processes of many goods consumes water that is not contained in the final product. Because it's invisible to the consumer, the water is called virtual water. By adding the quantity of water that was used throughout the whole product of the process, we can calculate the waterproof footprints of the product. So, ang gingon dire is wala siya sa final piece of the product. So, kung yung wala siya sa final piece of the product is wala na siya inig baligya na sa market. Pero wala ta kabalo nga it consumes water sa diay. For example of this is livestock. If mo palit mo karne, di ba? If mo palit mo karne, may gnay dalang tubig, di ba? Wala. So, ang tubig dahil is gigamit ni siya pagpatubo sa livestock or even sa crops. Kung palit mo bugas, wala mo dalang tubig. So, magamit din ng tubig ang crops. Siyempre, pagpatubo nila, pampatubig sa crops. So, munang gitawag siya, virtual water is, dili ni mo siya makita nga naay tubig siya in the final product. Pero nag-consume gihapon siya og tubig. So, that's all. Hello everyone, so our topic for today is the Great Depression. So, the Great Depression is a worldwide economic downturn that began in 1929 and it lasted until about 1939. It was the longest and most severe depressions that ever experienced by the industrialized Western world. So sparking fundamental changes in economic institutions, macroeconomic policy, and economic theory. Although it originated in the United States, the Great Depression caused drastic declines in output, severe unemployment, and acute deflation in almost every country of the world. So, its social and cultural effects were no less staggering, especially in the United States, where the Great Depression represented the harshest adversity faced by Americans since the Civil War. So, Great Depression profoundly impacted countries worldwide due to a complex interplay of interconnected global economies and flawed policies. Its global reach wasn't simply a matter of contagion, rather than a web of financial trade and monetary relationship facilitated the rapid spread of crisis. One of the best examples of this is the interconnected global financial system. The world's economies were far more intertwined in the 1920s than previously. So, extensive international trade and investment created a system where economic shock in one nation could quickly be rippled outwards.